Hello and welcome to Bet the Edge, Tuesday, October 4th. Thanks everyone watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. I'm Jay Croucher with Drew Dinsick. Drew, I'm wearing black today. Funeral for the balances in my betting accounts last night. So we love the Rams, plus 2.5, particularly at the opener. They didn't love us back at all. They hated us with a passion. I'm still not entirely sure what happened last night, but we'll break all that down. We're going to jump into the offensive rookie of the year market, which, speaking of things that make no sense at all, there's that. And then we're going to finish off by looking at the Eagles and the Cardinals. The Cardinals suddenly live in that dumpster fire of a division, the NFC West. Firstly, Drew, thoughts on last night's catastrophe?
I almost wore black this morning too. Glad that I didn't, because you know what? We don't need to bury the season. There are a lot of games left. Although at the same time, like, NBA is right around the corner, kind of ready for for a little basketball, especially after taking a loss like that. Because I think it was about halfway through the first quarter where you felt like, might have the wrong side here. And it was because of the lack of urgency from the Rams compared to a Niners team that just showed up with all of the fighting spirit in the world. You expected the Niners to come out and look pretty good in the scripted portion of their offense, because that is a telltale of the Shanahan, kind of what he gives and what he brings to the table, particularly, considering that he knew what he had to work with Jimmy G and no Trent Williams. The thesis of Trent Williams mattering, Shanahan completely scrubbed that from being a factor in this game, largely because of what he asked Jimmy G to do. Jimmy G was getting the ball out of his hands extremely quickly, even on broken plays, even when pressure was getting near him. He was quick to release that ball. They gave him a lot of easy looks, short depth to target, and ultimately that helped the Niners build a little bit of a lead there. Rams completely inefficient in the red zone early in this one was frustrating, and then you kind of felt like, okay, the mistake is coming. Stafford is pressing. He was lackadaisical the whole game, and and similarly McVay, some poor decisions in terms of when to hand the ball off to Cam Akers and why. Is a huge question mark in my mind. But yeah, the mistake was coming. You could feel it, and then for it to turn into 6 points the other way and bust the teasers on top of everything, really just the icing on the cake there. The thesis for, again, the Rams came into the season with, we were expecting 4 All-Pros, and if all 4 stay healthy, this is going to be a team that has a fighting chance at another Super Bowl. Well, right now, only 2 of them are performing to the level of All-Pro, and that is, of course, Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp. Stafford, nowhere close to the level we saw from him, even in sort of the middling part of last season. And Jalen Ramsey, what happened to that guy? Just really, really questionable decision-making and open field tackling that, caused those 2 busted plays. I think ultimately the Niners showed up as a team that was 1-2 and was playing to save their season at home with a fired up crowd. And the Rams walked in and said, nah, we beat these guys last year in the NFC Championship. We'll probably do it again. And they did not.
Yeah, I think, we talked about it yesterday. We both made Rams -1 as the fair, but we said that the concern was, and the reason we weren't, we didn't think the Rams were a lock or anything, and the reason for that is that we were worried that, well, maybe the Niners just have the best defense in the league. And guess what? They have the best defense in the league, and that defensive line just completely overwhelmed the Rams offensive line, whereas we were expecting that it would be the other way around. And as bad as the Rams offense looked, and the fact that they didn't complete a 20-yard play for the first time in 15 years, which isn't ideal when you're on Rams plus 2.5. But the bigger concern for me is that it just seems a horribly managed game. Like, why are they huddling down 2 scores with 4.5 minutes left and snapping it with 3 on the play clock? Why are they throwing the ball to Cooper Kupp for the 18th time with 30 seconds left in the game down 2 scores? Like, what are they doing? And so it just seemed horribly managed. I mean, the Rams, they had their chances. Like, Stafford misses Higbee for the walk-in touchdown despite a little bit of pressure. And then, they're still, for everything going wrong, they're still down 17-9 driving with a chance to get the cover. But at the same time, that would have been unjustified. We were definitely on the wrong side. The Niners deserve that win and that cover. And so now becomes a question of, what do we do with the NFC West? Because the Los Angeles Rams right now are 26th in DVOA in the NFL. The
Amazing.
Niners, who I think we can safely say do have the best defense in the NFL right now. Jimmy Garoppolo did not look great last night. And that touchdown to Deebo Samuel, that was an inch away from being a pick six. And then it's a completely different game. He was very jittery, Jimmy G, and I wouldn't be upgrading the Niners offense too much after last night. I mean, they scored 17 points, and 7 of those were on a superhuman Deebo Samuel play, which he does, but you don't want to be counting on that every week. So, I mean, you gave it out yesterday, the Seahawks 40-1, which I can, this is the Seahawks at 40-1, but that was when I thought that the Rams were a legitimate contender, and now you have to downgrade them. I mean, the Seahawks are 20-1. I still think that's kind of a bet. I think fair there is probably more like 12-1, 15-1. Because the Seahawks might have the best offense in this division. But what are you doing with that market?
Yeah, I think there is only one play. It's the Seahawks with the long shot price. It was 40-1 yesterday. You said at the time you thought 20-1 was fair. It's 20-1 now in light of last night's result. Which I think implies that that's still short. 12-1 is reasonable. Looking at my numbers, I'm closer to 10-1. I'm like in between 10-1, 12-1 there. But that's basically saying there's a 10% chance the Seahawks can win this division.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound actually outrageous when you say it that way, right? Like,
these offenses are terrible.
Oh, yes, of course. Geno Smith has a pulse. And for whatever it's worth, the Seahawks defense is not great. Obviously the Niners, you said it, the Niners defense is the best in the NFL, surely. But the Jimmy G experience is going to have ups and downs in games where the Niners go out and Jimmy G plays clean through the scripted portion and they gain a lead and then they can let their defense just sort of do their thing, kind of like last night. They're going to look amazing. But there will be games where it is the shoe is on the other foot and Jimmy G is asked to come back from a deficit and it is not going to look as pretty. And so, there will certainly be, kind of a rocky road, in my opinion, of the Niners. The problem is the Niners the next 2 weeks have the Panthers and the Falcons. So they probably are going to be sitting atop the NFC West after those 2 games. Plus, they already have the head-to-head win over the Seahawks. But the Seahawks are alive, in my opinion. And I think, this is a division where if you can get a super long shot price, and we really don't know how these teams are going to sort themselves out over the balance of all 17 games. We're going to sit here probably in week 14 and still speculate on who is ultimately going to win this division. There is no runaway here. So taking long shot prices, I think, is the name of the game.
Let's just talk about Geno Smith for a while, because before we jump into OROY, just quickly. So Geno was the 39th pick in the 2013 NFL draft. He started for basically 2 years, a year and 3 quarters for a terrible Jets team whose win totals were like 6.5, and they had just no offense. And he was bad as a rookie and a second-year player in the Rex Ryan, the tail end of the Rex Ryan era Jets. And then he wasn't seen again for like 8 years. And now he's getting his first chance since being basically a rookie. And he's the second-ranked quarterback in the league by DVOA. He's the second quarterback in the league by PFF. He has Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and a top 2 offense in the NFL right now by DVOA. Like, I don't think that Geno Smith is the second best quarterback in the NFL, but there's a chance he might be the 16th best this year. And there's a chance that this offense might legitimately be the best offense in the division. Rashad Penny was the best running back in the NFL for the last 6 weeks of last season. Like, they have weapons, and I don't know, like, what's the win total over under for the winning team in the NFC West? It's probably 9.5.
Yeah.
That's where you'd set the line, about there.
Yes. If he can get to 10, they're good.
Yeah. And if he goes 9-8, there's a chance that they could win it at 9-8. So I'm all in Seahawks as a way to get revenge on burning down Rams' house. All right.
Well, and plus the Rams are fragile.
Yes.
The Rams are fragile. An injury to Donald, an injury to Kupp, and literally forget about the season. Stafford already is kind of a huge red flag injury-wise. And Jimmy Garoppolo. When was the last time Jimmy Garoppolo played a full healthy season without any kind of missed games due to injury? Yeah. Can you remind? Oh, he never has. That's right. It literally, I think maybe the 1 year they went to the Super Bowl, he might have started all 16 games. But whatever the case is, he is a fragile dude as well. And if you're going to then put your eggs in the Kyler Murray, Cliff Kingsbury basket, best of luck to you. So no, Geno Smith right now is outperforming Jalen Hurts. He's outperforming Russell Wilson. He's outperforming Tom Brady. He's outperforming Justin Herbert and Aaron Rodgers. Like there are only 4 quarterbacks who have a higher EPA per play than Geno Smith right now, and they are Mahomes and Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Tua.
Yep.
And that is unbelievable.
Against a decent Broncos defense, he was excellent.
Yeah.
Right. Before we jump into Offensive Rookie of the Year, just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in college football, Major League Baseball, on the NASCAR circuit, and in the Premier League. There's also $100,000 up for grabs by guessing the outcome between the Bengals and Ravens in our Sunday Night 7 contest. A reminder as well, someone did actually win that and took home $50,000 this past weekend following the outcome of Chiefs-Bucks. All right, Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's going to cycle through the favorite, Chris Olave, plus 450. He is the front runner. Damian Pierce, who was 100 to 1 not too long ago, is now plus 700. Second favorite, Romeo Dobbs, is also 100 to 1. I think he was 250 to 1. He's plus 750. Kenny Pickett, who's the big story, he's plus 750. So is Drake London, Breece Hall plus 1,400 with his teammate Garrett Wilson. And then you get into George Pickens, Jahan Dotson, and Isaiah Pacheco. Now, this market's a mess because usually it's anchored and given structure by quarterbacks. Not this year, unless you're a believer in Kenny Pickett after throwing 3 picks against the Jets. But who are you looking at in this market?
Yeah, so the Pickett question is where you have to start, because if he performs in any way, shape, or form satisfactory or above, then he is going to get the award by default. The problem is it's tough for me to see him doing that, considering he's probably going to go 0-13 as a starter. I'm making a little bit of jest here, but the Matt Canada offensive system globally is atrocious. It is awful. He has weapons to work with in the passing game, surely. He's going to put up some impressive numbers, particularly in weeks where they are in big-time comeback mode and they are asking him to throw the ball 50 times a game. But ultimately, what they, like the vision from sort of the fundamentals and the pillars, the underpinnings of this offense, all check every box of not good in 2022. And then the schedule on top of that is exceptionally hard, particularly this next stretch coming up for them. So not an easy entry into sort of his career as a starter. Still also would very much like to see what he looks like in bad weather conditions, which we would expect later this season, particularly in Pittsburgh. So a lot to still be answered about Pickett, and he is out in my mind, which means you got to take a gamble on one of these offensive skill position players. And that's where I have struggled to really handicap this market for the entirety of the preseason through even 4 weeks. If you were to sit me down and say, you must take a player that is going to lead the rookies in receiving yards, I'm probably going George Pickens, just because Pickens is a pretty decent connection. And they're going to be in a lot of negative game states, as we just laid out. So he's probably going to be the beneficiary of a decent amount of volume. But the rest of these guys are just in really questionable situations. Garrett Wilson's fighting for target share. Drake London is in an offense that wants to run the ball 40 times a game. And the Chris Olave, like, he is clearly the standout player on the Saints offensively, but the Saints offense is horrible. So there is huge questions about really all of these receivers at the top of the list. Romeo Doubs, similarly, like some of the lows he's put on tape, I think are easy to hold against him. I guess if you made me take any player out of any of these, I'm probably looking for Damian Pierce, just because I think he's going to end up with the volume. He seems to be the guy Houston wants to kind of lean on for their entire offense, which is amazing. But that's the sad state they're in right now. So Pierce at 7-1 would be my pick if I was going to make a bet in this market. But I'll be completely candid with you and tell you I have steered clear of the Offensive Rookie of the Year betting market to this point, and I'm not really running to the window at any of these numbers.
No, I think Romeo Doubs might have been favourite in the market had he hauled in that touchdown late from Aaron Rodgers to win the game and really bump up his stats as well. Yeah. But yeah, he's got his own questions. He's got issues with drops, and that's a very run-heavy offense. With Pickett, I mean, yes, he's a quarterback. And if you're a good quarterback, then you win this award. But it's no luck that he's going to be a good quarterback. And you look at guys like last year who had the whole season to start and had more of an offseason to prep, like guys like Zach Wilson as a rookie, Trevor Lawrence. They were terrible. And they come in with more pedigree than Kenny Pickett. And they would have both, even though they're quarterbacks, they still would have lost to like Najee Harris in Offensive Rookie of the Year last year, who was never in the mix and was averaging like 4 yards per carry as a running back. So Pickett is no lock. The upcoming schedule is absolutely brutal. So I would not be touching Pickett at plus 750. I'd be more interested at George Pickens at plus 1700. I worry about Pierce just because that offense is just so dire. Davis Mills just sinks everything around him. I think that Dameon Pierce is just going to have games where he has 8 carries for 21 yards because he plays on the Houston Texans. So the guy I would be looking at in the market, I don't think it's a massive edge or anything, but I would back Breece Hall at plus 1,400. I think that should be more like 10 to 1. He had 17 carries last week against Pittsburgh, despite game state not being entirely favorable to them. He has taken over that backfield. He was looking at more like 30% of snaps in the backfield. Against Pittsburgh, he had 45 snaps to Michael Carter's 29. And also, you do have to regress back to pedigree and the draft. And Breece Hall was the tier 1 running back by himself. He was the first running back taken for a reason. All of the next-gen stats, all the testing, the measurables, like he compares favorably to guys like Jonathan Taylor, LaDainian Tomlinson in terms of what he can do physically. Obviously, he's not those guys yet, but I mean, he is in terms of like Johnny Analytics versus Johnny Film Room, we definitely skew more Johnny Analytics, but just watch the guy. He's a freaking monster, Breece Hall. Incredibly talented. And I do think that his Jets offense might not be as dire as we perhaps expected coming into the season, just because there is upside in Wilson, as bad as he's been. Like, he still is a second-year quarterback who was taken 2 in the draft. Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, the rejuvenated Corey Davis. Like, they do have talent, and they have been able to put up points. So Breece Hall would be the guy. I don't feel super passionate about it, but I would bet him at plus 1,400. I think that's slightly above fair.
Okay.
Pickens would be the next guy at plus 1,700. But yeah, I would probably be waiting to let this market shake out. You in on Breece Hall? Did I talk you into it?
Well, you're making a lot of strong points, and the fact that he has trended off of his peak in terms of price, it always interests me, right? Like the fact that he was 800 this summer and he's drifted, I'm like, ooh, let's keep an eye on that price. His next matchup, I don't love. He's going up against a very stout Miami Dolphins team that's getting a full 10 days of rest and regroup. And I don't know that, really just the Dolphins defense and what they like to do scheme wise against Zach Wilson is kind of perfect to just absolutely stump him. And so I think you could see a Jets team put up, 10 points this weekend. But after that, he gets the Packers and he gets the Broncos, and both the road games. But those two teams have been very soft against the run. Most notably, like the last couple of weeks, Packers just absolutely gashed in the run game against the Patriots. Broncos couldn't get off the field with Josh Jacobs coming at them. So I think if Hall has a little bit of a lackluster performance this week against the Dolphins, I'll probably buy before those two opportunities for him to put up some serious numbers against the Packers and the Broncos.
Yep, I like that. I like that look. Okay. Before we jump into Eagles, Cardinals, in case you missed it, check out Matthew Berry's new show, Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry. The legendary fantasy football analyst is back with NBC and RotoWorld doing what he does best, breaking down love-hate lists, who to start and sit, and much more. There's also plenty of actionable betting information along the way for sports bettors as well. I'm about to hop on a plane to Connecticut to host that show with Matthew for the rest of the week. And on Sunday, with Fantasy Football Pregame, myself, Matthew, and Michael Smith. The weekday show is on Peacock at 12 p.m. Eastern, or you can listen to the show in podcast form wherever you download and subscribe. Okay, Eagles, Cardinals. Eagles minus 5.5. The over-under is a juicy 49.5. Now, firstly, before I ask you about your thoughts, I think this line is too small. I think that it's going to close a touchdown. I mean, the look ahead was 3.5, which was clearly wrong. It's correctly ticked up to 5.5. It's inching towards 6 now, and I think it will definitely close at least 6.5. I think there's a chance it gets to 7. But what do you think?
So this is a weird one. We're in the dead zone. It doesn't take much to see these numbers run away in either direction, right?
Yeah.
Like you blink and then you wake up in the morning and it's 6, it's 4, right? And to this point, at least, looking at some of the market making books, the circas, the bookmakers out there, the energy has been Cardinals. Okay, it's been kind of get us down towards the 4.5. That could be a fake out. Somebody trying to get a good number for later in the week when limits are higher, so that they can come in and just absolutely back up the Brinks truck on the Eagles. Or it could be because this time of year and through years past betting NFL, there's a little bit of signal here where people will take stand, professionals will take a stand against an undefeated team. And the reason they do that is pretty straightforward, and it's actually somewhat explainable. There is no doubt in anyone's mind right now that from preseason prior, whatever you came into, even someone like you, people like us who were high on the Eagles, who were like, hey, bet them to be the 1 seed in the NFC, even us, everyone has upgraded their prior on the Eagles, everyone. And at some point, there will be an inflection point on that, and they will come back and regress. And there is general intent to try to capture the inflation, so to speak, of how people are rating this Eagles team. And this game, even though it is a lackluster, extremely unimpressive Cardinals team, like last week they won and it was just awful, ugly. Nothing you could take away from that Cardinals game where you're like, they did some things that I really thought they popped. No, there was nothing there. That said, they have a quarterback in Kyler Murray whose preseason prior was a top 10 rating. And this is a difficult trip. They're flying from Philadelphia to Arizona. And Philadelphia has Dallas next week, which is a more meaningful game for them for divisional purposes and just in general, kind of organizational rivalry. So from a spot standpoint, I get why people want to shoot their bullets right now at the Eagles. From a value standpoint, I get it. And I think that in general, that's going to keep this price either in the dead zone or kind of nudge it towards 4.5 as we get closer to kickoff.
Okay, interesting. My look with here is that week 1, Chiefs was 6.5-point favorites in Arizona. Arizona's definitely been downgraded since then. I think that the Eagles right now, their rating, like regular season, is similar to what the Chiefs were coming into the season. So that's why I just don't think that 5.5. I just don't think that that's big enough. There is some concern that obviously when you have Kyler Murray at what should at least be a competent offense, that certainly Arizona can score late and can threaten a backdoor like Jacksonville did. But I just think this Arizona team is a complete disaster. We talked about it yesterday. Like, they're the one team in the league that can almost punt on 4th and goal, which is miraculous. But I mean, is there any hope for the Cardinals? Any look on them at plus 800 NFC West? I mean, we outlined why the Seahawks are a chance because of their quarterback situation. I mean, Kyler Murray is a better quarterback than Geno Smith. Any interest in them potentially getting back to? I mean, they were the favorite for the 1 seed in the second half of last season for a stretch. Is there any chance that we're sleeping on the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, but I think we can get a better price still. Yeah. Ultimately, like, they may be the value side in this game for all the reasons we've kind of mentioned. People trying to sell high on the Eagles, trying to buy low on the Cardinals. Right. This is a telltale. That's basically the fundamental angle here. But that said, they still probably lose this game, and at 2-3, and then potentially losing next week as well. You're looking at 2-4 before Hopkins returns. He's an interesting piece. He kind of changes the complexity of that offense. The team that the team that they trotted out against the Chiefs week 1, they have already gotten a lot of pieces back, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. And it just in general will continue to get healthier. I think I need a better buy point than 8-1 for them. If again, I think we just scooped the bottom of the barrel here on the NFC West between now and like at the end of December. At the end of the day, we'll have a positive hold on the house, and/or the Seahawks run away with it. And in that case, we just pat ourselves in the back.
Yeah, go Seahawks. I do think with the Cardinals, there has been a tendency that they have typically drifted throughout the week, like that Raiders game, and especially in week 2 when that was in Vegas, but that opened like 3.5, and then closed 5.5 in that range. I mean, the Cardinals were like pick against the Carolina Panthers last week. So the market doesn't have a lot of respect for the Cardinals. And every week, this is now, we go into a year and a half now of the Eagles just firming every single week because the market adores them for the most part. Jacksonville did come in from 7 to 6.5 last week. Anyway, one to monitor. We'll see which way that goes. Either way, I suspect that the Eagles will be going to 5-0. Now, we're done, Drew. Don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks everyone watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. And if you're listening in podcast form, please don't forget to subscribe and rate us. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, we'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day.